Ladies and gentlemen, brand loyalty is truly getting out of hand. Or at least that's what I think so. And I want to talk to you a little bit about it and how, well, generally silly it is, but also how dangerous it can be for the industry as a whole, whether it be gaming or mobile phones or tech in general. I think most people that are aware of this phenomena of brand loyalty tend to sort of recoil at the thought of it, that you will stick with a particular brand just because you are loyal to them, not because they will provide a certain quality that you are accustomed to, right? I think that's sort of where the line gets blurred a little bit. People tend to confuse brand loyalty for fanboyism, brand loyalty and fanboyism for just accepting, if you will, or just believing and realizing through experience that a particular brand and the way they do things suits you very well. But there is a big difference. One is just blind and regardless of objectivity, and the other one is, well, kind of sensible, right? So let's talk a little bit about that. What triggered me to make this video, and I don't mean trigger in that sense of the word, just what inspired me, I guess, to make this video and kind of provided some food for thought was this rather silly YouTube short that a lot of people were displeased with, let's say. It wasn't the most well-received and well-liked YouTube short I've ever saw, but I guess, still speaks volumes about how certain people think, and, well, I'll just get into it and stop delaying and beating around the bush, right? So, the YouTube short was this. What phone do you have? I don't know, have the latest iPhone, I think. Do you have the best version, the Pro Max or whatever they're called nowadays? Yeah, I think so. How much did you pay for it? I don't know. Okay? How much would you pay for an iPhone? I don't know, probably whatever they ask. Okay, so did you pay $1,000 for it? I don't know, probably. Would you pay $2,000 for it? Yes. Would you pay $5,000 for it? Yes. Would you pay $10,000 for it? Yes. Would you pay $20,000 for it? Probably yes. Why? Because the only competition is the Droid. You can see why people were displeased about this, right? First of all, Android users unite. Second of all, this sort of iPhone exclusivity and prestige, I guess, associated with it, or whatever, is exclusive mainly to the US. You come to Europe, yeah, the iPhone still has that sort of cult following, but nowhere near to that extent. I mean, I think we've all seen those shorts of and clips and conversations of people going, well, I don't want to talk to you, you have an Android phone, right? I don't want to be friends with you, you have an Android phone. I don't want to date you, you have an Android phone, etc., etc. It's just the most ridiculous stuff. On the one hand, it's good because you meet people like that and you're like, well, I'm good, I probably don't want to talk to you anyway, right? If you hold that belief so passionately, then chances are we aren't going to hit it off, shall we say. But more to the point, the same problems, I suppose, but the same situations can be encountered in tech as well, for Nvidia and AMD, for Intel and AMD, right? For multiple things. And people will say, and I've read this on Reddit as well, and I know, Reddit, I am well aware, just bear with me for a second, right? Read this on Reddit, where the guy said, it was on, I think, r/PC building, or r/tech support, something like that, where the guy said, I would rather buy the worst Nvidia card than the best AMD card. And he genuinely believed that. I think the question was, what do I get, like a 470 or a 7900 XT or something like that? The correct answer, most of the time nowadays, would be the 7900 XT. You just get so much more with the card. However, there is a conversation to be had about convenience and some of the driver issues and some of the problems that you can get with AMD that you don't really have with Nvidia. I'll give you one example. The latest Windows update screwed can I say that word? It's 5 minutes in. Yes, I can. It messed with or screwed the overclocking for AMD cards. So if you have auto overclocking on, it would just turn it off, right? Every time you restart the PC, it would just turn it off. And that is a problem, you know, it's an inconvenience, but it's also not the end of the world. But yeah, like I said, you know, it's ideally you wouldn't have that issue. I had problems with screen flickering. I made several videos on my gripes with AMD in general, but at the end of the day, in terms of performance per dollar, they do win out. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And generally, I think the direction in which the company is taking from now on, which will be that they don't want to compete for the top place, they'll leave that to NVIDIA. If you want the most ridiculously expensive, you know, $3,000 GPU, you go to NVIDIA. If you want anything below that, you go to AMD. That's sort of the type of competition that they're looking for, to compete in the mid and lower brackets of pricing. And I think that's great, because, I mean, to be honest, today they still haven't beaten the 4900. That is undoubtedly the best GPU to buy on the market, if you don't take price into consideration. But most of us are mortals, and most of us do take price into consideration, and most of us don't have, and even if we had, probably don't want to spend $3,000 on a GPU. It's just too much. It becomes, at least for me, it becomes a matter of principle, right? And even if I had that kind of money, I would be hesitant to give it to a company like that just to support that kind of practice, right? At the end of the day, you vote with your wallet, and, well, I don't want to vote like that, basically. Now, anyways, be that as it may, it's the same kind of brand loyalty, right? Where NVIDIA is the greatest thing ever, and AMD is just, no matter what they do, they can never please you. Same goes for AMD and Intel and the processors side of things, where AMD has been consistently good in terms of their processors over the last few years. Intel has had some questionable decisions and questionable solutions. They still continue to do so with some of their top-end PCs. And I've seen people, don't get me wrong, I've seen this on the other end as well. I've seen people buy the latest and greatest and most expensive CPU just to find out that it's actually not what they need. I still remember this was a while ago, but I remember people bought the Threadrippers back in the day, expecting it to be the greatest CPU ever, and then they use it for gaming in games that use only one core, and you're like, oh, this isn't that good, is it? And no, it isn't, shockingly. You need to inform yourself a little bit about what you actually bought. Yeah, I know, right? Anyways, same can happen, like I said, on the other side, on the other color spectrum of rival companies. And I don't necessarily just blame the people for falling for this. If you have a monopoly, it's one thing, but if you have two companies controlling the entire market, I'm not quite sure what that would be called, but this is the situation we have most of the time across the tech world, right? You have two big companies, and then there's someone trying to squeeze into the third spot, but generally you have choice between two things. Coke and Pepsi, right? You do have Sprite, and you have other... Yeah, but who owns them, right? Yeah, so there's also that part of the equation. Ultimately, you have a choice between Coke and Pepsi, figuratively speaking. Intel, AMD. NVIDIA, AMD. So, with that said, the question now becomes, why is this happening? Is it just people falling for stupid marketing and stuff like that? Well, part of it is, yes, the people are just not very well informed as to what they are buying and what they need. Yeah, see, you buy in accordance to what you need. I need a gaming CPU, and for me, currently, the best option was the 7800 3DX, right? The Ryzen 9. Ryzen 7? It does matter, right? Ryzen 7, yeah. Yes, Ryzen 7, 8 cores, 16 threads. Why? It has the best memory layout. 128 megabytes of cache, one single cache that all cores have access to. It's ideal for gaming. People sort of unwittingly go for the most expensive thing, assuming it's going to be the best for them. And they'll get, like, a couple of years ago, like I said, actually probably longer, when the first Threadrippers came out, and they started buying those, and they realized, well, hold on, this isn't doing what I wanted to do. Yes, because you're playing a game that uses one core and one thread of your CPU, and, I mean, nowadays, multi-threading support isn't ideal. Back in the day, it was way worse. And you're playing with that, right? You're playing with just one core and one thread. Doesn't matter that you have, like, 128 of them when 127 aren't doing anything. It matters for, you know, probably, like, rendering or some professional use or, whatever. But for gaming, not so much, right? And then you realize that and you go, oh, oops. Chasing after the most expensive thing is also, I guess, like technically a kind of form of brand loyalty, except you're not loyal to the company that made it, but you're loyal to the price tag. You're loyal to having the most expensive thing, even though it's not the greatest for what you need. Same happens with phones. Same happens with pretty much anything. Same happens with pretty much you name it. And it's silly, and I think it's kind of getting out of hand because, well, and I apologize, but just the brain-dead iPhone cult that's been created over mostly in the US, and like I said, it has members throughout Europe and the rest of the civilized world as well, but the sort of obsession with just getting the latest one every year as well, and I don't understand it. I don't. Maybe I'm just showing my age, right? Maybe I'm just an old fart that doesn't understand anything. That it's the latest thing and the latest craze. And I think well, I know people that have wanted to buy an iPhone for a long time, and you try and sort of rationalize your way through the process, and you go, okay, well, why do you want one? Well, I heard it has the best camera and the most reliable performance, and you know, it doesn't break and whatever. Well, what do you mean it doesn't physically break? Because I've seen more broken iPhones than anything else, but never mind. You mean it, like software, it's just stable and works, right? There is a point to be made there. Picture quality, camera quality rather, is subjective. I think the microphone on the iPhones, like when you talk to people, is very, very good too. Way better than on some of the other similarly priced phones I've had the opportunity to try out. Fair enough, if that's very important to you, if you do a lot of calls, you want to record something, and you know, you want to make Instagram Reels and TikToks and YouTube videos and Shorts and whatever, and that's important to you, fair enough. You know what you're buying, right? You know why you're buying it. There is a reason, a rationale behind it. But if you're buying a new one every single year, and you only use it to message people and open Facebook or Instagram once a day, and yet you keep buying the latest one every year, the question is, well, why? Is there no rationale behind it? Because like I said, you buy in accordance with what you need, if you're sensible. Because here's the thing, even if you have the largest amount of money in the world and you just do not care, then yeah, fair enough, do whatever you want. You know, you earn that money, who am I to tell you otherwise? But I'm not talking about the people who... Okay. So, get rid of that. Sorry, just press the Windows button. I'm not talking about the people who like have an infinite supply of money and want to just go, you know, well, I just want this, this, and this. Yeah, fair enough. Now, what I'm talking about is people that don't have all that much money and save up all year long just to get the new iPhone next year because they know it's going to come out. It's corporate slavery is what you're doing if you think about it. You're saving up money all year round on a limited income just to get the latest new piece of tech and have the company profit from your ignorance, honestly. It's cyberpunk at its finest, isn't it? It's techno-slavery in the city of night. I didn't make a pause, just for dramatic effect, although partially yes, but I also grabbed a sip of water. But you think about it, that's literally what it is, isn't it? And I don't know, it just never made any sense to me. But like I said, I also tried to rationalize the process for people that desperately wanted an iPhone. Or, like I said, this is the example I've interacted with and I know of. You can find the same for Samsung. You can find the same for Xiaomi, probably. You can find the same for Intel and AMD and for anything, for TVs, for monitors, for you name it, which is exactly the problem. There's brand loyalty everywhere and nowhere does it make sense. And again, I feel the need to tell you that I don't mean this as a gripe or a quip against people that want an iPhone or have one. Like I said, if you know why you want one, if you tried other phones and this one works best for you for what you do, if it's just convenient and you don't want to think about it and, you know, you have the money to spend and you know that it's going to be good and you don't want to invest the time it takes to research what other phones there are for similar price or lower price but deliver the same or similar kind of performance, you don't want to deal with that and you just want to buy the next iPhone, I kind of understand that. Time is money, right? I completely get that. But at the same time, you're kind of blindly following along if that's the case. Now, if you've tried it and you have your reasons, like I said previously, that's an entirely different scenario, but it's the extreme ends that I have a problem with. It's the extreme ends that go, the only competition is the droid. Because that doesn't show that you have no idea what's going on in the industry, that also shows that you never really investigated it or thought about it. Because you'd be shocked how many people think Android is a brand, not an operating system. You would be shocked how many people think that an Android phone is an Android phone, regardless of who made it. And that's worrying to me. But even if we, you know, leave aside this monopoly that iPhone has created and iOS has created in the North American area, shall we say, then you get similar sort of stuff everywhere else for different kinds of things. And it's dangerous. It's not dangerous just for you personally, who are slaving away for a company in this self-made cyberpunk dystopia that you've created for yourself. Again, I'm talking about the extreme situations where people will save up money all year round just to buy the latest iPhone, even though they don't need it, even though they don't really know why or what they're buying, and they could be using that money for, well, food for one thing, or just trying to invest it into, you know, improving the quality of their life somehow. Extreme situations, but you run into them with surprising regularity, I would say. You keep finding situations like that, right? And it's sad, but also at the same time you're sort of just bewildered by it, that media and marketing can have so much influence on a person's life. But like I said, it's not just damaging for you individually, for this hypothetical person, which you seem to run into with increasing regularity, right? At least I do. It's not just damaging for them, it's damaging for the whole ecosystem and economy and the tech world in general, right? Because if you keep pushing for this brand loyalty, every time you buy something, you vote with your wallet. If you support AMD's practice of trying to, you know, compete at the budget and the mid-tier level and try and provide you more performance for your dollar at that end and, you know, ditching the higher echelons, or the highest echelon, okay, you bought that and you supported that company. On the other hand, if you support what Nvidia did with this series of cards, with regards to purposefully restricting the amount of VRAM, with regards to purposefully restricting the memory bus, yeah, you know, maybe you need the best card. Don't get me wrong, I know people that do YouTube and streaming for a living, and they need the 1490 Ti Extra, Super, Plus, and they're going to pay $5,000 for it, because it makes them their money. It makes them their daily bread, and they need it. Except, they don't really, right? There's nothing you can do with a 1490 that you can't do with a 1480, or the 80, or a 7900 XTX, in terms of streaming and in terms of recording. Not really, right? It's okay, it's a tiny little bit of performance for double the amount of money. If it means that much to you, recording is very, very resource intensive. Fine, you know, if you try both or you know that you need the extra bit of performance, alright, fair enough. But on the other hand, if you're just getting it to have the newest thing and brag about it, yeah, I got a problem with that too. I really do. And again, far be it for me to say what you should and shouldn't buy, one brand or the other. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to raise awareness of why certain purchases are made by, well, you, the people, right? But by any individual. And don't get me wrong, I'm guilty of fanboying occasionally myself. I'll see an off-brand something, and I'll see an on-brand something that's a little bit more expensive, and I go, wow, probably the brand thing is a little bit more high quality and a little bit more durable, right? You could look it up. It's the internet. Sum of human knowledge put online for you at your fingertips. You could look it up. You don't have to just assume that you know. And sometimes I do. We're all guilty of this, right? At the end of the day, if you want something, if you want to buy something, it could be a phone, it could be whatever, you have a certain amount of money that you want to spend on getting said thing. But you also have a certain amount of money, a certain amount of time that you're willing to wait before you buy it. A certain amount of time that you're willing to put into research in regards to what you want to get. Say you want a new GPU, there's only a limited amount of time that you're willing to wait before you buy one, if you have the money. Or if you don't, there's only a limited amount of time that you're willing to start saving up for that GPU, after which it just becomes kind of, you know, not really worth it. Like I said, time is money, right? You could save up for 5 years to buy a GPU, but that's 5 years of you not having a GPU. Or not having a decent GPU, supposedly, in this hypothetical scenario, right? So, are you willing to do that? You know, are you willing to wait that long? Most people aren't. So you settle for something less. You settle for something cheaper, but you have a decent GPU for those 5 years. Same goes with phones, right? Same goes with, like I said, anything else. There's only a limited amount of time that you're willing to put into research and saving and waiting until you get what you want. Until you get an upgrade, let's say, for something. And I think that's very valid, and that needs to be part of the equation here. So, I'll give you a great example for me personally. I was looking for a mouse mat, right? Mouse mat, by the way, is like, I understand that I go to different websites, and I see these things called different things. It's the thing that you put under your mouse to move it around, but it's not just under your mouse, because that's a mouse pad. The mouse mat is the one that covers the keyboard and pretty much a large chunk of your desk, so it gives you more room to move around with your mouse. I've seen they call like different things on different websites. Depending on where you are in the world, you might have different names for it, etc., etc. I'm trying to just sort of put everyone on the same page, regardless of what country you are and what region you're from. So now we've established this. I was looking to get one, and I saw that there are some insanely expensive ones from Razer, from Corsair. I think had some really expensive ones as well. And I look at these, and I'm wondering, why the hell is it? Why the hell does this cost $200? Well, it has RGB lighting on the side. I really don't care about the RGB lighting, right? I've gotten to the point in my life where I really don't care about it. If it's there as an option and it looks nice, fine, but most of the time I really, really don't care about it. So, let's skip out on the whole RGB thing, because I don't want to pay $200 for a mouse mat. Jesus Christ, my mouse costs less. Alright? So what's the other option? Well, there's one for about $20, I think, or something, that's absolutely massive. It's the same thickness and the same material as the $200 one, except it's not a famous brand. Lovely, I'll take that, please. That's all the research I did. Genuinely, that's all the research I did. I looked up like 2 or 3 of them and realized, hold on, this is ridiculously expensive. This is actually a very nice price. This is like $20 or something like that. And I realized that for the price of like 10 of these, I could buy one of the expensive ones. I'd rather just buy 10 of these, honestly. If it gets rugged and dirty and if it starts tearing or something, I'll just get a new one. Or I'll get a more expensive one, but I'll have used this one for like a year or two. At least. It's been a full year since I got this mouse mat from Akiris, and it's perfect. There's no damage on it, there's a little bit of dirt, but I can clean it, and that's it. It's lovely. And I was especially concerned about the edges of the thing, right? The edges of a mouse mat tend to... well, they tend to come undone, and they tend to get a little bit too dirty, and then your mouse cord, if you're not using a wireless mouse, tends to catch onto that, and you have some problems. I had that problem with the previous mouse mat. This one, nope. 2 years in, they're pretty much the same as the day I bought them. It's perfect. That's all the research I was willing to put into this, because ultimately it's a piece of cloth that I put under my hands when I'm playing. Is it the most sensible thing to do? Not, you know, to research it properly? Well, it is something I use literally every day. So I put a lot of stock into stuff that I use every day, right? I value that a lot, because I sit at this computer every day. I work from home, so I do this every single day, and for me, if I'm going to spend so much time with this mouse mat, then maybe it's worth looking a little bit more into it and making sure it's extra nice and comfy for you, because you spend so much time on it, you use it so much. I did the same thing with my chair. I had a okay-ish chair, which broke after about a year, probably, and then I kept it for another 2 years, because, well, at the time I wasn't employed, and money was short and stuff like that, and I couldn't really afford to get a really nice one. And then I looked into getting a really nice one and realized that with shipping, you know, one of those really nice ones would cost upwards of $1,500, like $2,000 or something, because the problem was getting it to me. Yeah, and I was like, nah, how about no? How about a more local alternative with similar build quality? Well, here you go. Literally the same kind of construction, the same kind of materials, except on the handrests, which I don't really care about that much anyway, but pretty much same kind of chair, half price, off-brand. I was like, okay, but is it gonna last as long as the on-brand one? Because the biggest selling point of some of the branded chairs that I've looked at is that they're very durable. You can sit on them for 24 hours a day. Well, you physically can't, that's a problem, but, you know, technically it is possible for people to sit on them for 24 hours a day, and they will not break, they will not come loose, they won't start squeaking, they'll just, you know, they'll... the padding won't start degrading in front of you very quickly. It's, you know, eventually it will, of course, but, you know, they're very durable, is just my point. I was like, well, what about this one? And then I did some research, some digging, looked at some reviews and stuff like that, and then I went to try it. Because luckily it was in one of the local shops here. And the one they had was sitting in front of the shop, or sitting in the window, for about 2 years, I think. And it looked pretty darn good for just sitting out there in, you know, all kinds of... Well, I was going to say all kinds of conditions. No, it's indoors, but it was just sitting there for like 2 years. All kinds of people tried it, moved it around and stuff, and it looked pretty good. Matter of fact, it looked good enough to buy right out of the window. I didn't do it, I wanted a new one, the one that hasn't been used for 2 years. Especially because you pay the same price, regardless of whether you get the one from the window or the one from the, you know, storage that's never been opened. So I was like, yeah, you know what, let's get this. And I've been using it for a couple of months now. Perfectly happy with it. You could have a sort of kind of brand loyalty there as well and go, well, this is the chair from that brand and I know it's the best. And you would end up with a pretty good product, but you would end up overpaying for it, which for some people isn't a problem because they don't want to spend the time to actually look at an alternative or, you know, go and try out this off-brand chair that I did, which is fair enough. The problem for me is when you just buy an inferior product, vote with your money for something that's damaging to the industry, and you're not aware of what you're doing, and you're just blindly following along. That, for me, is the biggest issue. It creates an unhealthy environment in which companies have a hard time competing, not with the quality of their product, but with the marketing and the, dare I say it, brainwashing happening. So now it becomes a battle of not just delivering a better product, which ultimately is in all our interests, right? You want companies to compete to give you the best product for the lowest price. This is ideal. This is what capitalism is supposed to be about. This is what the free market is supposed to be about, right? Where you as the consumer, you are in the best possible position because all of these companies are free to create their own product. They're free to do it however they want. The only thing they need is your approval and your money once they make it, right? They just need to convince you to buy it. And I feel like the goalpost has sort of changed in industry, in the tech industry in general, where it's not so much about making a product that you want to buy, it's much more about convincing you that you want to buy that product. And there's a difference. The difference being, if you have two companies make the same product, one is cheaper, one is more expensive, you buy the cheaper one. It's the sensible option. But now in comes a sort of culture and propaganda and media and cultural norms and prestige and all these things where the more expensive one is now the better one to have because, well, it shows status, it shows dignity, it shows gravitas, right? In this fictional scenario, it objectively shows stupidity. If you have two identical products, one is cheaper, one is more expensive, then you'd be stupid to buy the more expensive one, but this is where a different kind of battle comes into play, where the companies are no longer competing to just give you the best product for the lowest price, they're competing to convince you that their product is better, that you need to have their product for a variety of reasons that are now, at this point, outside of the product itself. It's not the characteristics, it's not the camera, it's not the microphone, it's not the number of cores and threads and performance and stuff like that. It's the brand, it's the image, it's the idea of it. And they're monetizing the idea. That is a different kind of battle, where the product itself is becoming less and less material, less and less important. It's the branding that's important, the idea of it. And to me, that's disturbing and disgusting, and I will fight with all my light, with all my power against it on a personal level and on, well, this kind of YouTube level, right? Yeah. Like I said, maybe it's just me being old and not understanding what these kids want. Meddling kids, get off my lawn and all of that, right? Because I talked with people that, wanted these phones, and I think I've started a sentence and never really finished it from like a couple of minutes ago. Some of them you can sort of try and rationalize why they want something, and it's not what... Even if it is brand loyalty, you sort of see where they're coming from, right? For some people, a very common answer I got, especially this was with younger people, younger than myself, that is. So everyone's like, well, look, I'm spiritually 90, I'm physically not that old. So mostly people of my age and slightly younger than me, the answer I got, well, it's, what are my friends going to think? Well, it's, the prestige of it. Well, it's, it's the better brand. It's the, whatever. So it's not... So what you're looking for is not performance in the product that you're buying. And it's easy to talk with phones, right? I think it's something that we all have in common with and understand well. So it's not the phone you're looking for. It's not the performance of the phone that you're looking for. You're looking for your friend's approval when buying the phone. You're looking for the sort of... well, you're looking for bragging rights almost at this point, isn't it? That's kind of what you're looking for. and some of them admit that, yes, that is indeed what they're looking for, and fair enough. I mean, that is also something you can put a price on. You can put a price on bragging rights for a phone, for a GPU, for whatever. If that's the most important thing to you, who am I to tell you no? But at the same time, I kind of feel like I need to point out that what you are doing and what purchases like that are doing is damaging to the industry, and that tomorrow you might want a phone or a product of any type or nature that delivers just raw performance per dollar, and you find yourself that the industry is so far warped and changed that you are really looking at a different kind of landscape. So yeah. But there's also, I think, another reason for this happening, and it's not just pure corporate greed or whatever you want to call it. I think another reason for this happening is because technological development is slowing down and has slowed down significantly. Compared to the early 2000s, the mid-2000s, it's chugging along slower and slower. Let's say in 2005, if I bought a phone, and that was sort of like a mid-range phone, and then 2 to 3 years later I look at buying another phone, my old phone will have been completely irrelevant, completely in the past. It would have been overrun, made obsolete, and just, something not even consider. I bought my phone about 3 years ago, and today I compared it with the Samsung A54, I think. And I realized that my phone, I think, has either a better GPU or a better CPU. I looked up like 10 different phones, so I've completely forgotten which one is which, and I've a mess of information in my head. But the idea was this: it performs better than the Samsung A54 in some categories, and in some categories it performs worse. So ultimately it's sort of a mix-up of what do you prefer and what do you want, and what's more important to you from a phone. Except my phone is not that new. It was bought a while ago, and it was bought for less money than the new Samsung costs now. Back in the day, it cost less than the new Samsung costs now. Yeah. Now I'm not sure I haven't actually found it anywhere on sale. Mine one. I think it's they just, I don't know if they stopped making them or what. Maybe they're just out of stock or whatever. But couldn't find it locally to buy. You can find it on like probably like Amazon or whatever. It doesn't matter what it is, right? Kind of the point is that you don't need to know what it is. The point is, I compared it to a phone that came out I think last year or this year or something like that. And they were kind of similar in performance, and one beat the other, and they beat each other in different categories. That's the idea. Less money, older phone. Still in the conversation, at least. I'm not going to make the argument that it's better than the newest mid-range phone that you can buy, but I will make the argument that it's much cheaper, and I will make the argument that it's in the conversation. And the fact that it's in the conversation is indicative of this slowing down of technological development. So, also, the part of the issue is that technological development nowadays is focused in different areas. AI is now the latest, hottest craze, right? Putting AI everywhere and into everything. And it's exciting, don't get me wrong, but at the same time it comes at the cost of something else, always. And, yeah, that something else, nowadays, at least to me, seems like it's gonna be raw performance a lot of the time. So yeah, I don't know what to think. Ultimately, what I want to do with this video is bring to your attention the dangers of brand loyalty and blindly following along with someone else's idea of what a good product is and what you need. Ultimately, I think we're all going to be much better off as an industry, as a people, as a civilization, right? If we just are a little bit more mindful about what we buy and why we buy it and what we need from the things that we buy. Said Juggernaut, and proceeded to spend around $2,500 to $3,000 on his new PC. Do as I say, not as I do. Well, I joke. I talk about my PC, and I kind of feel guilty for spending that amount of money. It's kind of why I'm bringing it up. especially when I'm saying something like this, but my idea is I bought it because I use it to make money, I use it for my work, I use it as my hobby, I use it for so many different things that I sit here for a staggering amount of hours every day, both, you know, doing games, doing YouTube, not playing games, doing YouTube, relaxing, watching stuff, and then also doing work. So, as a result, you know, I think it makes sense for me to spend top dollar on it to improve the quality of my general, or improve my overall general experience with everything I do on the PC. That was at least my excuse, and that was how I thought about the entire thing, but the idea is, even if you're going to buy the biggest, most popular thing, Jesus, sorry about that, even if you're going to buy the biggest, most popular thing, even if you're going to buy the newest iPhone every year, my problem isn't, not my problem, my point isn't that you shouldn't do it, my point is that you should know why you're doing it, and you should think about it. If you decide that, yeah, I need this for this and that reason, more power to you, hey. You need water and bread, right, and a roof over your head, but we're at least living in post, you know, survivalist era, at least I hope so, and we can afford ourselves a little bit of luxury, depending on what kind of job we do and where. So I say need in quotation marks, right? But I like nice things myself. There's nothing wrong with buying an expensive and nice thing for yourself if you can afford it and you're not damaging anyone in the process, and it's your money, you've earned it, knock yourself out. But like I said, just keep in mind why you're buying something, because it has effects on the industry as a whole, unfortunately, and yeah, we need to sort of keep that in mind, I guess. Alright, that's about it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a very long video, but I think it's it was a rant, but a productive one nonetheless, which can ultimately be summed down into, don't be like that who said the droid is the only competition, because that just pissed me off to no end. Thank you very much for watching. Tell me what you think down in the comments below. I'm kind of eager to have a conversation with someone about this. Do you agree with what I said? Have I made some mistakes? Do you disagree with some of the points that I made? Please feel free to have an open conversation about that with me down in the comments below, and I will see you all in the next video. Thank you very much for watching. Like, subscribe down below if you enjoyed, and we'll stay tuned with the rest of the content that I produce on this channel. Till next time, have fun, take care, and Roma Victa.